thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Thank you for joining us on a weeknight. It's cold out and you probably have more fun places to be maybe. My name is Elise Chambers and I'm with the Conflict Resolution Center of Minnesota. That's a community mediation center here in Minneapolis, and we sometimes moderate events like this. So I'm going to give you a couple pieces of information, so I'll explain the format of how we're going to hold this forum tonight, and I'll explain a few other pieces about the process here. But first, we are going to hear from Mr. John Wheeler, who is the director of the Center for Changing Lives, which is the building that we're in right now.
Thank you. I just want to take a minute to welcome everyone to the Center for Changing Lives. We're very happy to have you here. Center for Changing Lives was opened in 2008 to serve as a place where people who live in this community can find ways for themselves and their families to have better lives. And we welcome you for that reason, but also in particular because we view the democratic process as a key part of creating a society that allows people to have the best possible lives. And so we are welcoming and thank all the candidates for being here, for your willingness to serve the community, and in particular all of you citizens and voters. It is on the basis of your participation that our society is what it is and can be the best it can become. So thank you so much for coming. We hope you'll become frequent visitors to the center. Thank you.
Is that a little better?
A little. Lean forward. If you speak up, it will pick up.
Can I just holler? Is that all right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read you first and foremost the 6th Ward Candidate Forum Statement of Nonpartisanship. And this is really important because the hosts of this event and the Conflict Resolution Center, where I'm at, both want you to know that this event is nonpartisan, and this is what that means. The organizers hosting this event hope to educate the community. However, this forum does not indicate support for or endorsement of any candidate or political party. We're here to help you understand what you need to understand to cast a vote. Now I'm going to tell you about the forum we're going to use tonight. So we're using what's called the League of Women Voters format for this 6th Ward Candidate Forum. And some of you may know what those rules are. The candidates do, and they've all agreed to abide by them. But I'll give you a couple ideas about what those look like. We're going to hold our applause until the debate is completely finished. There are many people here who favor one particular person maybe, and if we applaud as each person speaks, we'll have less time to have our questions answered. So at the end, we can give all of the candidates a rousing round of applause together. The candidates are each going to have 2 minutes for their opening statements. They're each going to have 3 minutes for a closing statement and 1 minute to respond to each question from you guys. The timekeeper, who is Steve, is going to keep track of their time by raising cards. I think he's going to... Where'd you go, Steve?
Right here.
Hey, Steve. Thank you. Steve's going to raise cards, so when you see that go up in the air, you'll know that that's what he's doing. He's just keeping track of the time for us, and this way the candidates will be able to see what those look like. Volunteers passed out index cards and are going to collect your written questions. If you think of a question and want to write it down during the forum, all you have to do is raise the question up in the air, and they'll come around and collect them from you. Try to word your questions in a way that's general so that all of the candidates can respond. If a question is directed at only one candidate, we won't be able to ask that question unless there are the same number of questions specifically directed to each of the other candidates. So Cheryl and Crystal are going to wander around and help collect your questions, and they're in the corner there. If you need help wording a question or aren't sure how to word it, you can ask them, and they'll help you figure out how to write it down. They represent the screeners, and what they're going to do is group your questions into categories of a similar nature, and they'll give me a representative question to ask from each group. The purpose of this is to sort out duplicate questions and to assure that topics of greatest interest are asked within the time available to us. and also to ensure that we put personal questions aside. Questions that are inappropriate for the branch of government involved in this forum will also be set aside. I'll give you an example. A question about school facilities isn't appropriate for city council candidates, but questions about joint use of school and city facilities would be. So we'll try to help you sort through that to make sure that the questions that you want to get answered are answered, but that they stay appropriate to the forum we're having. The candidates are seated to either side of me, and they're about to draw a number to determine the order of their opening statements. This order will be reversed when we come to their closing statements. They're also going to answer your questions in a rotating order. So whoever draws number 1 will go first for the opening, but last for the closing. And whoever draws number 2 will go first for the first question. Does that make sense? So it'll kind of go down the row so that nobody's always talking first or always talking last. All right? So I'm going to have them draw their numbers. All right, a little bit of dramatic theater. Why don't we have everyone unfold their number and hold it up high so the audience can see.
We're gonna tell one.
You've got number 5. I did 6.
I don't know
So.
why I did 5.
So you've got number 3, 4, 1. So we're going to end up going in a weird order. I apologize. I'm going to write this down real quick. All right. Tell me again, who's got the lowest number? Steve, our timekeeper, is ready. We will begin with the first opening statement. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Abdi Wasami. I would like to thank the Center for Changing Lives and all the sponsors of this forum, as well as all the participants. My name is Abdi Wasami. I'm running for City Council. I'm the DFL endorsed candidate. I'm also endorsed by the Sierra Club, as well as the Firefighters Union. To give you a little bit of my background, who am I? I was born in Africa and I was raised in Europe. I grew up in London, England, in a place called Leytonstone. I've lived in the US for the past 7 years, and I'm passionate about the city of Minneapolis. I want to serve as your council member because Minneapolis is changing and the council should change with it. My main topics of interest are economic development, transportation, public safety, housing, environment, accessibility, and a more inclusive government. I would like you to give me the opportunity to be your council member, and I believe I will be able to transform the city of Minneapolis into a more inclusive, more efficient, and better run city. What gives me an advantage over other competitors is my financial background. I have a business degree from the University of Middlesex and a master's degree in international business from the University of Greenwich, both in London, England. I have run small businesses as well as nonprofits. Currently, I'm the executive director of the Riverside Plaza Tenants Association, as well as the board chair for the Cedar Riverside NRP. I'm passionate about government, passionate about the city of Minneapolis, and I also, to my advantage, speak fluently both English and Somali, which are two of the most popularly spoken languages in the city. I would like you to give me the opportunity to be your city councilman. Thank you very much, and I think I'm on time.
I'm for the Minneapolis City Council, and my topic today is unity. And the reason I'm running this is because our community is divided into divisions, not only divisions, but subdivisions, and our city is broken. So I'm the one who is going to unite this community. I've been hearing a lot of statements about what the other candidate is doing, but all they do is just divide the community. But I'm just the one who is going to unite this community, and on November 5th, I'm asking you to vote. That's the big thing. If we unite, we can do anything we want. So I'm asking you to vote on November 5th.
I'm the 6th Ward City Council member and currently Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council. I'm here tonight to ask to be your first choice on November 5th, Tuesday, that's Election Day. I really want to thank the 3 neighborhood organizations that have sponsored this, also to Community Action of Minneapolis, and thank Lutheran Social Service Center for Changing Lives for hosting us. And I would also like to note we're joined by other elected officials, State Representative Phyllis Kahn, State Representative Karen Clark, Park Board President John Irwin as well. I am running because I want to do 3 key things, working together with you, all the communities of the 6th Ward. I want to make sure that we have strong, safe neighborhoods, clean neighborhoods, green neighborhoods. I want to work with you to grow jobs in the city, to bring small business support to the small businesses and what is really the entrepreneurial capital of the city of Minneapolis, and also to make sure that Minneapolis is a fair, equitable city and a true land of opportunity for everyone. These are the principles that have driven my work on the City Council over the last 12 years. Because of my leadership on the City Council, the city now has historic high participation goals, work goals for women, minority on high city projects. Because of the work that I led on the Midtown Exchange and other projects, there's opportunities for local entrepreneurs, affordable home ownership. And I'm very strong on working collaboratively with the community to keep our communities safe. I am proud to say that the crime rate today is at historic lows. Violent crime is lower than it was in 1983. If you had property crimes, that's lower than it was in the mid-1960s. Also, for the first time in decades, the unemployment rate in the city of Minneapolis is lower than in the surrounding communities. But there is lots of work to be done to make sure it's the people that I represent that are getting jobs, that are trained and ready to take jobs in the community, that our streets are in good repair, that they're safe. I want to work with you and all the communities of the 6th Ward. Please make me your first choice on November 5th. Thank you.
I want to thank you for the people organized, and especially media and neighborhoods. My name is Muhammad Kali. This is not first time I'm running City Council. 2009, I'm the first Somali run City Council. And this is my second time. I'm very happy to see we have a more Somali candidate participating in our neighborhood. Love to take the leadership of our neighborhood. Me and Robert will run each other very good, clean campaign 2009, and I hope this will be similar. And the last time, 2009, we have a 7 candidate. Now we have a 4 candidate. A lot of people are very confused why we have a more candidate, because the reason we have more candidate is it's open for everybody. You can participate. So, and come back what I live in this country 20 years. I work last 10 years for community organized. I work with all very closely, Ventura neighborhood, East Tiflit, West Tiflit, Whittier. As you know, we did redistricting, and I hope you guys will give me first vote. If not, second will be helpful also. So I'm not gonna ask only one, I'm gonna ask a second because it's a ranking choice. So what I want is, I want to do for help for the community to work together, better education for all, better neighborhood for all, jobs, especially immigrant community. And I think it's the time for immigrant community to show the leadership for Ward 6. And I hope you guys will give me the first vote. I thank you very much.
I heard that. So now we're going to go, there are 5 questions that the forum has prepared for the candidates. So we'll address those first to give you a chance to hear more from each candidate, and then we'll jump into your audience questions. So the order we're going to go in is Mr. Addo, Mr. Lilligren, Mr. Kali, and Mr. Warsami. So we're going to shift it a little as we keep going with our order. So the first question is, what do you think of the continued practice of using tax increment financing for development? And there's a part 2. Describe a project that you would use tax increment financing to develop. And I just want to tell the candidates that is a long question, and if you need me to repeat part of it, I'm happy to do that, and I don't think we'll count that in your time. So Mr. Addo, we start with you.
Tax hike kills businesses. I think it's fair to tax fairness, and I will work at the tax to be a fairness. And that was the second job.
The second part is describe a project that you would use tax increment financing to develop.
Yes, that's easy, you know, every tax should go where it's supposed to be, and I will just utilize that taxes to be, to use safety and jobs and development. Thank you.
Increment financing, and I do support it where it's needed, where development wouldn't happen but for unless the tax increment financing was used. So tax increment financing is a tool that city governments have to value a piece of property at what it would be worth for tax purposes after a new development is built, and then to capture that increment of value to invest in that project. I've supported it on projects like the Midtown Exchange, which was a huge focus of my first term. I've supported on other projects within the city that wouldn't have happened, wouldn't have brought development, wouldn't have brought jobs unless the city used tax increment. A project going forward that I would support it wholeheartedly and do support it wholeheartedly is the reopening of Nicollet. It's my #1 priority from a project perspective. We're making progress on that. That's a project that will likely require tax increment as well as other public funding tools.
I think also I support that project, especially very advocating for Greenway, Midtown Greenway. As everybody know, we're working on very hard last couple of years. Midtown Greenway, we should put a train, and I think that's what I'm more advocate. Also, I will more advocate for employment. We should create more companies so people can have more income for where we live, because as you know, it's a big issue for when it comes to employment, and especially immigrant community. They don't have more opportunity to develop what they want. So I want to make sure that finance development go everybody, not only one area. Thank you.
Definitely support the tax increment financing as a tool to develop and support small businesses. I think Robert, who's been there for 12 years, is an expert on it and he described it very well. I agree with his description of what the tax increment financing is. Well, an example of success, just like what he described, is the Midtown Exchange. I would say it's needed for the development of the Cedar Riverside Mall, a smaller version of the Midtown Exchange to bring the different various communities to Cedar Riverside, the Somali, the Oromo, the Vietnamese, as well as the larger community. And I think it works, but I think we do need to utilize it in a manner which supports small business and also develops it. However, I would like to add that just giving money to small businesses is not enough. We do need to train immigrant business owners how they can maintain their business, how they can market it better to a larger community, and therefore they can be successful. Minneapolis is the 5th largest city in terms of small business startup, but it's also number 5 in terms of small business failure, and we need to address this. Thank you.
And the order for this will be Mr. Lilligren, followed by Mr. Colley, followed by Mr. Warsame, followed by Mr. Otto. The second question, candidates, is, if elected, please tell us what specific actions you would take to improve the housing conditions of low-income residents in the 6th Ward. Mr. Lilligren.
Resources, that's what we call money in government, to direct towards issues like affordable housing. One of the passions for city government has been to just build new affordable housing, build more multi-unit apartment buildings. I think what we need to do is rethink that strategy and take care of what we have. The most affordable housing that we have in the city is the housing that you're already in. Make sure that we're supporting the existing housing stock before we're just building new. But I think at the center of the affordable housing plan would be work with you, with the community. I firmly believe that people know the solutions that they need. So I would engage low-income renters, low-income homeowners, people who are in or may need affordable housing. Hear from them what their demands are, what their desires are, and then take the city's considerable resources and direct to community-identified solutions.
Tell us what specific actions you would take to improve the housing conditions of low-income residents in the 6th Ward.
I think the last 8 years I'm working community organized. I see a lot of low-income family have a housing problem. So that is a big issue. It affecting me, my low-income family. And I want to make sure the housing we build should be like 3 unit, 4 unit, because don't just look for the income, also look family size. And I think we have to be careful anytime we make a decision, or if we advocate something, we have to understand what the problem is. So I think I'm 100% supporting with low-income family, have to be big housing, should be 3 unit, 4 unit, because the family size, sometimes a lot of family have a big family, they cannot find it, the houses they need, so that would be my priority when it comes to the housing, and I'm advocating for that.
Mr. Warsami.
Okay, thank you very much. Taking a heavy toll on our neighbors. And what I would do is, number one, I would fight gentrification and strengthen renter protection. Be aware that Ward 6 currently is 80% renters, and we do need to protect those people. And also I would ensure that no public funding, no public resources are used to foreclose on our citizens. I think those are the 2 concrete things I would do in terms of housing. I have no time. I would also add that we do need to give and educate renters on their rights and on their responsibilities. That's something that city does not do. I'm aware of that. In Cedar Riverside, a lot of the immigrant community renters do not know what their rights are. They do not know what their responsibilities are. And when they talk to city councilmen, they're told, call 311. And I don't think that's enough. We do need to educate them as well. And that's one thing I will do. Thank you.
The low-income houses in Ward 6 are different. Some of them are rented, and landlords own, but the MPHA are rented. And some of them is owned by MPHA. As Muhammad Ali said, we need bigger houses, we need larger families don't have houses. And also, there's accountability because the landlords usually don't think that this rent is paid by the government or the city, and they use whatever they want to do it. So like Cedar Riverside is having issues, some of the buildings have issues. So what I'm going to do is just accountability and follow the resources that the city is paying for our elders and our low-income people to go, especially where it needs to be.
Thank you.
Ms. Chambers, I'm sorry, I haven't been bringing in, and so I don't know if the rules are different than that, but some candidates do have other printed material that they're working on.
I'm sorry, I'm going to take a look at your materials. What do you have?
I don't have.
You have the agenda? And sir, you have an agenda? An agenda and pen? And sir, what do you?
Wasn't mentioned.
That's right, I'm going to confiscate your notes at this time. Thank you. And just so the forum and the audience knows, those are the League of Women rules, so we're a little less formal than some forums may be, but I hope you all agree that that is the proper course of action. If they had agreed to these rules ahead of time, we should ensure that everyone sticks with them. Are there any other questions from the candidates at this time? Okay. So we move on to our third prepared question, which is, please describe what kind of relationship skills are needed to represent the 6th Ward on the Minneapolis City Council.
Needs and deserves is somebody who understands all the communities of Ward 6, who has interpersonal skills, a consummate communicator, who understands the languages or cultures of the people that live in Ward 6. I'm somebody who, a lot of people put Abdi Warsami as a Somali candidate, but Abdi Warsami is an American who happens to be Somali. And my leadership skills have always been able to organize people, motivate people, and make sure and to educate people as well. I think that's what's needed in Ward 6. So the leadership skills that I needed is a leader that leads from the front, understands the different cultures, the complexities of the world that he lives in, understands the differences between the renters and the homeowners, the differences between the business owners, the differences in age. That's the kind of leader Ward 6 needs, and also somebody who actually understands the language, both English, verbal and written, as well as Somali. I think that's very important in Ward 6 today.
Need is that I can walk every aisle. I can walk the other side of the aisle. I'm not just a Somali. I'm American, as Abdi said too. And language is not a problem. I believe every Somali nowadays speaks Somali in English. And if it's a language, I speak 4 different languages. But the skills are, unlike my opponents, I'm not going to say this race is about white and black, this race is about religion, this race is about this and this. And my skill and the leadership I will bring to the city of Minneapolis is to work with everybody and unite this community, as I said in my opening statement. Thank you.
Like the 6th Ward, a city council member needs to be able to work with all communities, across cultural lines, across language lines, economic lines, and I think this is a strength of mine. And what first brought me into community service was when my block became crime-ridden and dangerous, very dangerous, too dangerous for children to play outside. As a very young man new to the community, I reached out to my neighbors. We worked together. We identified partners that could help us, small businesses, the city, police, others, and we all worked together to make our community safer. That is still very much the style of my leadership in City Hall today. I think in the core city, we often lack access to decision makers and access to the decision-making process. You'll find me very present in the communities that I represent, cultural communities, faith communities, neighborhoods. You will also find me bringing people who are going to be most impacted by the decisions we make in City Hall to the table to help us to make those decisions.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to question number 4. Yes. Question number 4 is, if you are elected, how will you go about making the 6th Ward communities safer? And for this question, we start with Mr. Warsami.